Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Actanamera podcast. Today, I am very excited because I am bringing someone very different from everything I've brought before. But trust me, you're going to love this. De'Nicea Hilton Harper is a doctor of Oriental Medicine and a holistic well being consultant. She specializes in helping introverts, empaths, and caregivers navigate boundaries, stress, and burnout. Through her work, she empowers individuals to use signals from their bodies to create personalized self care practices and experience sustainable, authentic relationships with themselves and others. In this episode, we'll explore how entrepreneurship as an introvert or an empath can be supported through mindset shifts and body awareness. So keep on watching if you're an introverted or an empath, because especially if you run your own business, because you don't want to miss this one out.
Welcome to the Acta Number, the podcast. I'm Mitty, and here we'll talk about business, freelance, mindset, education, mental health, life, personal growth, and everything to help you overcome your fears, know yourself, and create the life and career of your dreams. Episodes in English and Spanish every week.
De'Nicea, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you on.
Oh, thank you, Mitchie.
I'm
You
so
can call me
glad.
D.
Okay, D. I love D. I like it more. Although De'Nicea, like I already told you off camera, you need to write a book because I mean, everybody like doesn't she have a name that you could see as an author in a book? Like you have an author's name.
You're like, De'Nicea. There, you're like,
Yeah,
in the
Hilton
lights.
Harper. Like yeah, I want to read that book. Okay, D. So just there's a nice question that I'm not gonna take credit for it because I took it from my favorite podcast, but I was like, I listened to it, I'm like, this is such a great question, and I'm gonna ask it to you. Now,
Okay.
for anybody who doesn't know who you are, they don't know what this conversation is gonna be about. Why should they stay? What are they getting out of today's podcast?
Hmm. So I would say, here's your invitation to stay because where it is that you might feel like I've tried all the things that I'm introverted and an empath and I care for these people and all of that jazz, and it kind of feels like you might be up against the wall, feeling really stuck. I'm like, stick around and let's just see what's your unique way for you to be able to still do that, but to do it in a way that feels really whole and feels really good and feels sustainable. And that those clues are coming from little insights from your body. And then that way you can really kind of personalize it more for yourself. And then you get to see, like, I can still enjoy these juicy relationships with people and myself. So I would say, yeah, stick around and let's have some fun and play with this.
Sold. As someone who is an introverted person who runs their own business and is super stressed out and burned out and doesn't know how to set boundaries. I'm so down for it. I can't wait to delve. So first, again, I can't thank you enough for being here. Now, for people who don't know you, in the intro I mentioned this, but I would like for you to maybe explain it a little bit because I'm like, what is this exactly? So
Mhm.
I know that you are a was it holistic medicine doctor? No, I got it wrong.
Yeah, close. It's holistic well-being consultant and Doctor of Oriental Medicine.
Okay, so what was that? What does that entail? If you can just explain it quickly.
Yeah, sure. So, I actually had studied and got licensed in practice to actually do Oriental medicine, which includes acupuncture, herbs, lifestyle therapies, recommendations, food therapies, and all of that jazz. And then, as I had been practicing, when I came out of school and stuff, and I started, I had a really heavy focus on reproductive health. So, I was really seeing people related to menstrual cycles and fertility and just as I've been practicing, I expanded in the way that I practice and the way that I saw people. Um, and I just was like, you know what? Let me switch it up a little bit and let me really focus more on what I see that it's all about. And that it's more about, sure, there are these signs and these symptoms that are showing up in the body, but they were really carrying information for them, letting them know, hey, this is what we're seeing as far as the expression of who you are authentically. Your desires, are they expressing themselves in your life? And then we're all relational. So, like, what's the relationship internally, and then what's your relationship to the external, and like kind of just seeing how that all plays together. I just happened to see that those that gravitated towards me were introverted, or they were empathic, or they were caregivers. And that could be caregivers for family, that could be caregivers for also those, you'll hear them, like the service providers that are like, I care for my clients like so much, and you know what I mean. And so the themes that I started seeing poking out was that it was always related to boundaries, burnout, or being authentic. And, so hence that's kind of where you're seeing it now. So, like, a lot of it is infused with just, like what I have learned over time and then through experiences professionally and personally. That's not the only modality that I use in a practice. It's just that one's a heavier influence, I'll say, because it was like my gateway into this.
Wow, that resonates so much. I'm like, This is gonna hit home. I know it already." No, this is really interesting. As you were talking, I was thinking, there's a book I read. You probably read it too. I feel like it became really popular lately. The Body Keeps the
Yeah,
Score.
keep score.
Oh,
I
it
knew you were gonna say that one.
yeah, it does, and I feel it. But no, I just I want to. There's so many places I want to go to, but the first place my mind is going right now, it's just you mentioned the cues from your body, and I'm just so curious about what are the cues and how can people be in tune with their body? Because when you get the gut feeling, like I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you're about to work with a new client. So I know that you also work with entrepreneurs and people who run their own business. And sometimes we get, especially people who are, empaths, we get this sense of like, and there's something I don't like about this client, then you have that gut
Mm,
feeling, but then there's that people pleasing thing that you're like, I can't say no, and you don't know how to say no, and you always want to give people a chance. And
mhm,
it's so hard sometimes to be authentic, like you said, and be like, you know what, there's something that doesn't resonate with me and this person. It's like it's better to leave it and then not work with them. So do you feel like that, gut feeling that you get when you're like, I think we're not a fit, has anything to do with what you're talking about and the reason why some people, and I will be including myself, I'm learning already,
mm.
although I'm learning at least.
We
But
all are.
oh yeah, it takes a lifetime. But I feel like, yeah, especially people who are like empaths, we get that. Like maybe we're like, yeah, I
Yeah,
feel this, but I don't know. Maybe we should give it a try. What's your take
yeah.
on it?
I think okay, so there's several things that you were asking there, and um, that means that there's a lot of layers to this, right? And a lot of different perspectives to look at it. And so some of the things that popped up for me was sometimes I think there's a practice of discernment. And I think that the discernment comes as you continue to practice, like as you continue to do it, right? Because then the patterns start becoming more familiar, and that helps with the discerning. So, like, even when you have someone and you meet someone and you're like, "Ooh, I don't know about this," like, so, sometimes, and this is part of the discerning, sometimes I've found is it that not necessarily for that offer. Could it be that? Then it's like, or is there also some aspect of that person that could possibly be activating something within myself? Um, or could it also be if I am feeling like I'm in tune with some energy that's with them, that it's like, "Ugh, I just don't even want to deal with it, right? Um, and so it's like I think that all of those are possibilities. And so like for the entrepreneur that's out there and you come across that, like I say, feel it out, lean into it if you want to, and just kind of go from there. Have I had experiences like that? Yes, I have. Like, sure have, where it was like, oh, I don't think that was a great idea, like to start this, and then, um, because what happens is if you continue, and tell me if this has happened for you, but like if you continue, it's almost like You start getting the digestive issues. Anxiety starts presenting itself whenever you're either working on something or you just see their name popping up on your calendar and know that you're getting ready to speak with them, or an email pops in and all you have to do is just see their name in the sender and you're like, ah, sugar nuggets. And, and here's the thing, because this is another part of what you were asking about, right? Was the people pleasing part. I think that you can introduce another way to see it. If it's people pleasing, you can even ask yourself, well, wouldn't they be more pleased to be with someone that they could really work with, that they could work well with? And so with that though, there comes for us, we'd have to actually be aware of why we are possibly overdoing it in the first place. So
Why are
for
we?
some, yeah, some people they'll say, well, I need the money. Like, right? I took it on because I need the money. That'd be something that someone would say. But there's also other things like that person, they're trying to prove something, and it could be proving something to themselves. It could be proving something to someone else, right? It could be proving like even for your offer. If you've been questioning your offer and then someone signed up and you're like, "Oh, someone signed up. That must mean that my offer," but then you realize like that person, you just may not gel, right? And so like it's seeing that, like it is being able to kind of like really explore what could be playing a role there, right? And I think it's now some people would say, or you just say no and move on. And yeah, that's totally a possibility as well. I would still say, I would still ask you to explore it a little bit and just to see if there is something that is unconsciously operating, right? Because that's the thing too with the boundaries. And I would see this camp, like see this out there, they're just like, just say no, and then that's it. Guess what happens though? People are like, well, you ain't got to explain yourself to anyone. And I'm like, well, anyone includes you. So even if you're saying no, like I would still ask why we're saying no, explore that. Um, and see what could really be playing a role. Now, this is when the body stuff can come up too, is like, um, so if there's a lot of, let's just say like digestive stuff going on, right? And even just depending on where it's at, but let's just say it's going to be right in smack in the middle. And then you start getting like the little flutteries. And then it's like, ugh, and then and then you start tightening up, and it's almost like the gut will just kinda, like, tighten up because it doesn't even wanna, like, welcome in whatever it is that situation is. So, it's gonna now tighten up and block, like, the flow of you digesting, we're gonna say food because it is food, and though, it's also digesting the environment, digesting the circumstance, digesting the person, like, whatever, situation it is, it's you're physically, like, tightening up where you're saying, like, "I don't even wanna digest this right now," right? But what you do know and what you are aware of, though, is the bloating that happens, and the bloating is happening because it can't move down. So, it's just kinda like you can continue eating if you want, but, like, it can't go down, so it's just gonna kinda sit there, and it's r just fermenting and fermenting and fermenting, gas, 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 because it can't go down. But then someone else would be like, "Well, they're gonna report the constipation part," and that's a possibility as well, right? And so it's just like, well, they're stuck too. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
like, and some would be like, "Dang, I feel it on my side." Like, I remember this, like, growing up, like, sometimes I would hear it from, like, some family members, "It's just this gas, like, all up on the side," like, and then they just, like, rub it on themselves and stuff like that. Well, if it's on the side, is there possibly, like, this choice, like, you might have already made the choice, but you don't have the courage to act on the choice. So you're kind of vacillating back and forth on it, right? And so it's just like, yeah, and then so that is like where it is that you would feel it. Some people are like, oh, they're nauseous or they're vomiting, well, yeah, there you go. You can't digest it, so but it's got to come out. So it's coming out up that way, right? And if that was the case, sometimes even that can tell you that there's a little bit more anger that could be behind it. And so, um, yeah, like, and I know this is pretty long, so I'm gonna like pause
No,
because
it's
when
okay.
you asked the
I
question,
think you're
I warned
Oh,
you. I
and
was
I
like,
actually have an extra question because I get the same with my skin. I get rashes. I have autoimmune
mm,
diseases. So every time that my stress levels go up the roof, I get eczema in my hands, and then it's just like it's itchy, and I get the flare-ups, and then I even get acne. It's just like and then yeah, like you said, inflammation, especially around the face, like I get super puffy. What is the skin? What does the skin trying to tell you?
it's so this is funny because I was just speaking with a friend of mine last night, about that. And so, I mean, if it's showing up on your hands, think about it. Let's think
Oh my
about
God, I'm
some
a
of the
writer.
common, yeah. And how are you offering your hand in service when you may not even really want to, or it may be too much, right? And so, because even as I was listening to you, it sounded like they're not all happening at the same time. It's just different areas at different times. And so then that's when someone with your experience, right, or similar to your experience, if that's the case, then that's where it's extremely valuable to, like, I say write a diary or something like that, to just kind of take note of like, this is what was going on, right, like prior. And then over time, you can start to see patterns, right? So, like, if this is like you're writing that resonated with you, and it's like, ugh, am I writing stuff that do I really want to be writing this? Or am I being forced to write something that I don't really want to write? Am I overextending my hand out to someone or to something? Right. And then you have that face. So, like, thinking about it too, it's like it's an expression, like it's something that people see, right? And sometimes it's like it almost kind of gets stuck in a way. And so, but it still needs to express itself. And so, depending on even then, like the area, if it's more lungish or if it's along here, it might be more liver area. And so, or even here, the heart right there in the middle of the nose.
Mm,
And so, or the stomach, like right in here, sometimes that'll happen and there's like a lot of heat percolating. And even then, when people, I've been thinking about this because this came into my mindset the other day, where it was like, it's kind of interesting how like inflammation is like the word, right? Like that's the thing, and everyone's like, oh, everybody's inflamed, and I'm like, I think inflammation is a sign really of just anger, and it's coming out in different ways for people based
oh
on their
yeah.
constitution. And hence why, something that we might experience as a stressor just generates inflammation because we're angry about it.
Or a lump
And people,
even. Like
or
sometimes,
what?
or a lump. Like I not long ago, I had a cyst removed, and it really really hurt, and I was like bottling up so many things that I wanted to say. And my skin was all over the place. Like I was super full of acne all here. I know this probably might be hormonal because I do have hormonal issues. And I
Mhm.
was all flared up here, like super itchy. Everything was itchy. And I remember like putting boundaries with people that I should have done that a long time ago. And then this is something that we could go into more detail
Mhm.
later with the caregiving. Because for me, work wise, it hasn't been stressful lately because now finally I learned the lesson. I'm like, oh, I'm going with my gut feeling. I don't want to work with you. I'm not working with you. So I'm like, I love my
Mhm.
clients now. So it's like, oh, I'm working with good people. There's no need
Yeah.
to stress here. But then you have your personal life and boundaries that you don't set. And for me, it's so hard to say no. Like I'll have friends come over and be like, "Oh, I want to hang out with you." I'm like, I'm super stressed out. Like I have a lot of work. I have so many things to do. I just want to stay home for the weekend. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm that boring person, but I'm just burnt. I'm coming out of a burnout, and I've been taking care of my mom who had a stroke not long ago.
Mhm.
So I'm like, it's been hard, especially being an only child. So you can imagine. And taking care of more people in my life, or not
Yeah.
necessarily family, but people very close to me. And it's so hard because it's like, I remember having a friend. I was one day just like, I was just so sad. I couldn't stop crying. And at the same time, I was like, no more tears were coming, but I felt like something else had to come out. He was like, you're taking care of this person, this person, this person, this. who's taking care of you? When he had me asked me this question, I was like, I couldn't stop crying, and anything that couldn't come out came out.
Mm.
And I started saying no to things. I started saying no to people, and it's been hard. But my skin is better. I no
Yeah.
longer have eczema. I no longer have acne like I had before. And but that's just it came out. Like something else had to go out. But yeah, I feel like yeah, the body really tells a story. And
It
whatever you
does.
don't say, it's gonna say it. And
Yeah.
it's better if you take ownership of that before it takes over, because when it does, then you're dealing with this, health issue.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too with that is like, because you asked, this was just part of your first question too, is like having to tune in with the body. And the thing is we have to acknowledge the ways that we are dissociating, and how, like, the ways that we were first introduced to dissociate from our bodies. And some of it is traumatic, right? Like some of it is related to a traumatic experience, yes. And then there's others that is like, it's as simple as, let's just say, feeding schedules when you're an infant, or diaper changes, and where you might not have been ready, right? Or let's just say you're a more frequent eater, but your frequent eating inconvenienced someone else. And so then here comes, well, we'll fix that. We'll put them on a schedule. And so, in a way, for so many, there are ways that sneakily, that we were beginning to be taught and groomed to not listen to what the cues are coming from our body, and to
Mm.
be able to answer and to be able to, do things, right? And some of it, I mean, you're an infant. So, like, I'm
Yeah.
not sure, like, how much you could do with that now spiritually. Some people would be like, "Oh, infants got a lot of power. You can't." But like, but for many
Oh
people,
yeah,
it's
no,
like
you
you're
usually go
there with,
finish your
yeah,
food.
it's like,
You're full already. Finish your food. Finish your food. And like
right, yeah,
then when you're grown up, you're like maybe you ate and you're super full, but you have this in the back of this chip inside of your head that's like, no, I need to finish, but you're like, I can't
yeah,
move. And then you finish, and then you feel super bad.
so
It's just
stuffed.
because
And so think about, so now take that and like think about, in what ways is it that, even that, so something that seems like it's just about food, it's not, because that behavior carries over into other areas of our life. So you just overstuffed yourself with responsibilities, but you were already taught to just go ahead and do it and take it in. Like, that's just what you do, right? Like,
oh my
and
God.
so,
Yes.
yeah, you can see the symbols, you can see all of this in your life. So this is why I say and introduce, like, it's all, it's a discovery of yourself, but it's a being. And so it's like, you got to really think about it. You're a human being. That's not a noun. That's actually a verb. You're a human who's being. And so
Mm.
it's through the being, so through the action, right? Like, you're going to end up learning more about yourself. And then as these things pop up in the body and whatnot, they're your cues, they're your signals. So think about, any type of signal is actually telling you a message. And what happens, even if it was Morse code, I mean, the signal could be like smoke signals, like there's always like some kind of like meaning to it, right? It's an interpretation. So an interpretation has to happen. And that's exactly what's happening with the body, right? And so, for some, it's really seeing how you can start to bring yourself back into your body, bringing your soul back into your body, and being like, I can be here. I can be present in this, right? And, and for some, that can be a little bit challenging, and that's completely okay. What I'm asking you is just for you to become aware that you are dissociating, and in the sneaky ways that you're dissociating, right? Or the sneaky ways that you're not even honoring the cues that are coming. And that could be you starting with something as simple as, "Oh, I feel like I need to go to the bathroom. So I'm gonna go to the bathroom," instead of, "Well, let me just finish this email. Let me just finish this project for this person. Let me just go and fix this for this person," right? Like, and because that's just another sneaky way that you're denying yourself, right? So it's like, so you can build it in, you can see these little things and respond to them. And it's like when they get loud, and that really gets your attention, like what you were saying with the eczema
Mm.
and with the acne and whatnot. And I did want to point out, like, just watching you, and you were pointing to certain areas, even on your hand, and certain areas. Yeah. And that area right there, you can even ask yourself, like, what it's like, where also was there like some rigidity?
It's interesting because as you're talking, it's becoming itchy, especially the palms and then this part, but, like, it's now as you're talking, it's like, it's itchy. And for people listening, probably, maybe for them, it's something else. Maybe it's, I don't know, they feel, a stomach pain or a headache, and maybe as they're
Mhm.
listening to you, they're also tuning in and feeling in themselves.
Yeah, and that's key, like, that's valuable, information, right? And if you're getting that, it's like, oh, it's processing, like, something that we're talking about is, like, resonating, right? And at this point too, guess what happens, though? Now you can be like, "Ooh, that's information, that's cool." You could sit there and ask yourself, like, you can be quiet, you can and just asking, like, "What's this about? Is there something new that is calling my attention? Or could it just be that it's somatically moving? There has
Mm.
been some level of healing that's occurred, and so now with that movement, there's this blood flow. So it's kinda like when we're sitting there and our leg go to sleep or something, and then when the blood starts going through and it feels all tingly, there's blood flow